Welcome back to the Forging Alpha podcast, where we talk about mindset, fitness, nutrition, lifestyle, and kind of whatever it takes to be successful mainly for males in today's world.
Yeah. Leveling up. Having a good
Leveling
life.
up the game.
And today we're talking about setting yourself up for success. The things that you do intentionally along the way, but also just the things you do unintentionally that you never know where they're going to lead you. And I think we all have those things that we started doing years ago that we didn't really know where it was going to take us and where it was going to do. Probably started out as things that we were just doing for ourselves that led to opportunities, led different paths. So, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. One of my favorite quotes from Steve Jobs is that you can't connect the dots looking forward, only backwards.
Is that Jobs or Harvey?
So Harvey talks about the staircase. So Harvey's is talking about not having to see the whole staircase to take the next step.
Got it.
Meaning that like as you take those steps, the next ones are going to appear. But also you don't realize the weight that those chance circumstances can have until you're looking backwards on it. Because at the time, they don't matter that much. But it's the compounding effect that happens from those actions down the road that once you look back, you realize how important they were. I was making a story this morning that kind of started this conversation where I was talking about starting a media production, quote unquote, company in 2009, which was when Alec and I were 12 and we were in like 6th or 7th grade. And I never really cared what anybody else was doing. I always kind of followed that path that it was inside my own head. And we've talked a lot about having a vision for your life on the previous episodes and stuff like that. But we haven't always talked about like how that actually applies and how it ends up guiding your life. And I don't think there always is a tangible action step, but if you're focused on something from a broad scale and you have a general direction of where you're trying to head, that's how you become open to those opportunities that you don't realize how big they are until you're looking back.
100%.
I think you just also had a story. It was one of the carousels where you're talking about your own problems that you had to overcome in fitness and how now, because you've overcame those problems, you're in a perfect position to help other people that were in a similar position get over those obstacles.
Yeah. So for me, fitness and nutrition, it never started out as a career focus, right? It was more about me solving my own problems and my own issues. And then in the process of that, becoming obsessed with every single aspect that I could do to get an edge, to find that next level, whether it was supplementation, whether it was nutrition stuff, whether it was training, sleep. So I just became obsessed about that for myself. And then throughout the years of college, I kind of became the guy to go to for those things that people relied on because I was so obsessed about it because I put a lot of time, effort, and money into those things. And I started realizing that I could help people with that from my education, from my experiences. And it eventually ended up becoming a career and my passion. It wasn't just something that I did end up going to school for it and getting educated, but it wasn't just like I went to get an MBA and go into the business world and just clock in and clock out. Like this was something that directly affected my life and I had no idea how it was going to affect my future, but I get to help a lot of people now because of it. And it's pretty fulfilling. And I am changing people's lives as a byproduct of that because I set myself up for success. It wasn't just about the materialistic aspects. Like I solved some big problems for myself. I spent a lot of time, a lot of hours, and a lot of money figuring out solutions that actually worked.
What were the problems that you were solving for yourself?
Started out with health. Health was the main thing. So I was always sick growing up, early years, high school, college. Body dysmorphia. So pretty self-conscious about being, I was skinny as a rail growing up.
What's the earliest you can remember like not being happy with the way that you looked?
12,
okay.
11.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think just remembering people making those offhanded comments about being built like a stork and being built like a chimney sweep and stuff like that. And I think more and more people have the chubby phase growing up where people made fun of them because they were fat, but like mine was being made fun of because I was always skinny and like
Less people can relate to it, but at
yeah.
the time, like it's still just as harmful or whatever.
Yeah. Like I looked up to those movie stars and those people that were jacked and like
Yeah,
my
they had some
I can
stature to
remember
them.
in being like 10 or 11 thinking like, you know, I want to get like a mass gainer shake
Yeah.
to try to like help myself out. And I had no idea what I was doing at the time. And I thought the solution was I needed to be working out all the time. So like my first introduction to like fitness stuff was every single night, 7 days a week, I started working out like in my room when I was supposed to be going to sleep, like in bed. Like I had a set of dumbbells in there and I had an easy bar and I would just do crunches at night and push-ups. I thought that was a solution. It didn't end up being that until sophomore year of college when I actually figured out the diet stuff. And in the course of that year, I went from 168 to 220. I'm like, fuck, this is the answer. This is one of the answers. And in that whole time period too, overcoming some autoimmune stuff that was leaving me in bed for 2 weeks at a time that was making me feel like crap. Like that freshman year of college was rough. Strep throat, autoimmune stuff popping up, always sick, feeling like crap. And like, because I was feeling like crap, I was just not also staying on top of my diet stuff, like eating once a day at like midnight after a 4-hour practice and a lift every single day. I was just driving myself into the dirt. And so issues started popping up because of that. And over the course of that year, like figuring that out, fixing some stuff, really started diving into like the supplementation and figuring out what works. Wasted a lot of money on shit that was dumb, but you figure those things out along the way. And then throughout the last 10 years, really refining that and like thousands of hours spent on the education side of things. Like most of my time in a car was spent listening to research, listening to podcasts, reading things and just educating myself and then test trialing all those things. To then now, like I get paid to use my brain and my knowledge to transfer that to other people. So like at the time, you never know where it's gonna take you, but like the amount of time and effort that I put into it is now paying dividends because I get to help a ton of people with that. I shave a decade and tens of thousands of hours off of people's learning process because there's a lot of bullshit out there that people are being told from less educated people, and they're either going to pay for it to speed up that process and learn, or they're going to spend the next decade and a lot more money trying to figure those things out. So if I can help shorten that learning curve with people, start getting people results, there's a big need for that in today's world.
There's a huge need for it, more so than ever, really, because it's not like the population's getting a lot healthier and there's only more bad information out there. Luckily, there's a ton of good information too.
Yeah.
But that's the biggest thing nowadays is there's a ton of information out there. Now you have to figure out what to actually trust.
100%.
And there's a lot of people that just bounce back and forth between things without giving it the actual time that it needs to see results.
Yeah. And I think that's where the transformation for me has been. I did it for myself and I've done it for hundreds of people now, to where you've got those people that, I did my own journey for a year or 3 months, and now I'm going to take it to other people and expect that they're going to do the exact same things and get the exact same result. It's probably the biggest problem right now within the industry is, one, on the people that are telling the information, do what I tell you because you're going to get the results.
Yeah.
But then also other people looking at whoever they look up to. And I think we all do it. We want to do their workout program, their diet, their routines, expecting that we're going to get the same result as somebody that has way different genetics than us, maybe spent a decade being a high-level Olympic athlete. Maybe they're using performance-enhancing drugs. But like, people do those things, fall flat on their face. And so the thing that I found is that what worked for me isn't going to work for other people. But since I've worked with so many people and gotten results with so many people, I've helped people lose 150 pounds and get off high blood pressure medications. I've helped high school baseball players gain 40 pounds and get drafted to the MLB. It's a completely different approach across the board. And so then having that tool set, and for me, like, the tool set was also cultivated because, Yes, I was skinny. I went up to 220, but then I bulked up to 240 pounds and was wearing a 37-inch jean. Like I've still got that pair of jeans.
You
That
still have it?
I do.
Oh,
I'm
that's
in a
awesome.
33-inch pair of jeans now, and they're like just dwarf me.
Yeah.
And like it's like, how the hell was I even fitting in these? And then I floated all the way back down to 185, and then came back and forth, and I sit like at 215. So I've lost and gained over 200 pounds the last 10 years. So like I've got a decent base for helping people with those things, and it's continually evolving. But just having that background of, I didn't know where it was going to take me. The whole journey of gaining, losing, having bad health allows me to have a tool set now to help people that I was never thinking about when I was going through those things in that process. And even like the painful stuff, right? Like that helps you relate to people and help people where they're at within that pain. Like if you're not going through crappy stuff, the crappy stuff sets you up for success because you can also help people that are going through those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things that I didn't realize when I got out of high school, and I started trying to wear the entrepreneurial cap pretty early, both with the RA Productions thing way back in the day. I mean, we were selling DVDs.
Yeah.
We didn't sell a lot of them. One of the DVDs we did sell was to Lauren, though. So
it ended up working out, dude.
Yeah,
You
it
set
ended
yourself
up working
for
out.
success.
But that's a whole nother story for another time. But where I was going with that is that I distracted myself talking about the DVD.
You wore your entrepreneurial cap early. Something about setting yourself
Yep.
up.
So one of the things that I would always, same situation. If I was in a car, I was listening to podcasts. But instead of just being fitness related, a lot of it was on the business side.
Yeah.
And for probably what seemed like a 5 to 7 year span where I got to college, I started trying to do different things business wise. And I would get really excited about it from the start, and then I would start it and not have the follow through to see like the immediate results. I'm talking like probably 6 to 10 different businesses. Like Diamond Cat Customs was going to be a automotive shop. So I like built out the website, the Facebook page, the social and everything.
Yeah.
And there's like 10 examples of different things we did. Gainstorm training, like we had a full trailer for the intake video. I had shirts that were printed that took me probably 2 years to end up getting rid of. But over those like 8 years, I was starting to, in a way, kind of feel like a failure of just restarting idea after idea after idea after idea, and like having Lauren blindly support me and follow whatever bullshit that I was talking about at the time.
Yeah.
I didn't realize the importance of that until now, where it's like, hey, that was like a decade of harnessing the power of social media for business, example over example over example over example. And you're only a failure if you stop.
Mm.
But if you continue to follow that little voice that's in your head about whatever your goals are and where you're headed, if you have that voice, if you've done the work to develop it, if you keep following it long enough, all the struggles in the past start to make more sense. And then you can repurpose your past history of it and the story that you're telling yourself. You kind of reshape that to frame your perspective that you can build from now. And then instead of your past being this sad story of the obstacles you've had to overcome, now that's the exact feel of why you're going to be able to help somebody get there also.
100%.
And that's a different kind of feel. And that only happens over those 5, 10, 15. I would assume it only gets stronger. But I would listen to these entrepreneurs talk about the element of time. That's something that Alex Ramosi talks about a lot now, is that element of time just has to be there.
Yeah.
Like you can have some quick success in business, but oftentimes it's those years of fighting those battles previously that you're still drawing that experience from, because you can read stuff in a book, but then you just have the years of experience actually doing a thing that creates a little bit different type of knowledge. That's the stuff that you can actually start to apply and really provide value for people.
100%, dude. And it's interesting too. So the phases that you have to go through, you've got to go through that shit eating phase, 10 to 15 years of in the mud, really like working hard, getting through it. At a certain point though, there's got to be like an evolution for it. Like you set yourself up for success by doing that, but also you've got to set yourself up for success in phase number 2 doing it smarter. And that's going to be different for everything, right? So like for me, being a great coach is completely different from being a good business person.
Mm-hmm.
And I could continue leaning into the struggles I went through, helping a lot of people and that model. But the bottleneck is always going to be, especially if you're running your own business, the business side of things. If you're consistently just in the business, working on that, like you can be the best coach in the world, but you could be the worst business person and nobody's going to know who you are. You're not going to have a great business, and the business will end up suffering because you're always bottlenecked by a certain thing, whether it's your time, whether it's your delivery, whether it's your offer. If you are the only person that's fulfilling, and it's just like this constant cycle of things. So, and I see people that are in that have been doing this for years and years on end, and they're really good at what they do, but they've stuck with that phase one of like, that's what set them up for success then. Now it's like, what is setting you up for success for like phase three? And for me, it's the business portion because I'm pretty good at what I do. I'm a pretty dang good coach. I'm going to continue investing into that enough to continue keeping up with what's going to get people results and produce. But majority of my bandwidth is now going into, all right, how am I setting myself up for success in 5 years? Because doing that, just being on the front lines of things, you know, I was a coach that was at a gym at 5 a.m. and I wasn't leaving until 8 p.m. That's not going to be setting me up for success by year number 20. So for me, it's like, how do I figure out how to provide offers, bring people in that are going to help me with what I do, have deliveries, have systems, and set myself up for success from a business standpoint, because I'm already like, I've been in this phase and I'm honestly starting to guide people that are below me in phase number one on that business side. And honestly, I see like I'm setting myself up now to be guiding people in that business side. Like I've built up the results with coaching. Now I'm building up the results from a business side. And then when phase number 3 comes, I'll have set myself up for success with both of those things. And I can really truly guide people from a coaching standpoint. But like my next evolution is going to be helping younger Calebs along that process. But so many people like get stuck in one of those phases where you're no longer setting yourself up for success anymore. It's just kind of become a victim to your circumstances.
I think somewhere along the way, and I've fallen into this myself, you start to lose that aspect of control with where you're headed. And it seems as though you stop dreaming, which causes you to stop growing. And you kind of get, not you, but in general, people get complacent with where they're at. Maybe
is the stopping of the dreaming because you're just in the weeds like day to day and you just can't see what's in front of your face as much? Or why does that dreaming stop?
It's got to be. I think people just let life get the best of them and they don't have those good habits. And then before you know it, you're stuck in that rut of doing the same stuff because they don't have the intentionality behind the growth.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting concept because it kind of seems counterintuitive. And that's one thing. Now that I'm at a phase where I get paid for what I know and that, like I can't be pulling 14-hour days all the time because of that same concept. Like you use examples of like Charlie Munger, or who's his business partner with the investment? Warren Buffett. 90% of their day, they sit around playing games and reading. Like at a certain point, and like not everybody's going to be an investor or along those lines, but I feel like at a certain point, once you've gone through the grind and the hustle, if you're not at a phase where you're giving yourself bandwidth to like think and dream and like look at like what the next move on the chess piece is going to be. I think Abe Lincoln had that quote of, if you're going to chop down a tree and you've got 3 hours to do it, you're going to spend the first 2 hours sharpening the axe, not spend 3 hours trying to knock down a tree with a dull axe. This concept of like giving yourself some space and some time to like look from a 30,000 foot view, right? Of, all right, I can't just keep charging ahead and trying to batter ram through things. Like I've probably got to come from this from a different angle.
Yeah.
Because like, I think for most of us when we started, like that's how it was. It was just a battering ram. Yes to everything. 8, 10, 12-hour days. At a certain point, though, like you just become so numb to things that you're probably charged in a direction you don't even know where you're going. You're just going.
You're just still going because it's easier for us as humans to continue doing the thing we were doing and not have to reconsider every option from square one every single day.
So, what in those phases where you've fallen into that rut, you stopped dreaming, you were just kind of on a path of the doing, what has helped you kind of reset and then get in a position to set yourself up again for success?
I think the biggest difference that I've noticed over the last probably 6 to 9 months, I think part of the thing that I fell into was the just getting so into the weeds of doing the thing. We were in a position where I was so busy doing work inside of the business to keep everything going that I wasn't able to have a chance to do the things that I'm a little bit more suited to do, that I kind of forgot that I'm good at, like higher level problem solving and things like that, sales. I got so honed in on just doing the creative side of things that I kind of just lost that pathway a little bit. And at last fall, when we were trying to get pregnant, and I started making the switch to having more intentional gratitude. And I starting every day with thinking about the things that I'm grateful for. And it started changing my perspective on things and realizing the path that I've been on and how we're set up right exactly where we're supposed to be. And that mindset that I've started each day with has kind of carried into the decisions that I'm making throughout the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And we've made more progress in the last 6 to 9 months than I had before that. But you have to get to the point where you're not just doing the work, whether you're a business owner or whoever it might be. You have to continually level up. And then when you can start to get some of that busy work out of your calendar, it's going to free up the opportunity for the next thing that's higher leverage. And you can't get stuck just doing busy work all the time, because then you're going to get to the point where you're looking back month to month and you realize, yeah, I've been busy, but I'm not doing things that actually matter. And the unfortunate thing is the things that actually matter, that are going to make the difference, that little voice inside your head's telling you to do, those are the things that aren't necessarily urgent.
Yeah, it's got to be about outcomes, not working for 8 hours a day.
100%. Because if you're just focused on doing the things, eventually you're just doing the stuff that got you here in the first place. And what got you here isn't going to be what gets you to the next thing.
Yeah.
And the 80-20 rule applies perfectly to that, saying that if you want a future that's 10 times bigger than you have now, you're going to have to change 80% of the stuff that you're doing. Chances are 20% of the things that you're doing are the things that are actually moving the lever in your business. The rest of the stuff you can either delegate to somebody else to do, outsource entirely. Lots of different options. But you need to find a way that you can lean into the stuff that actually matters so that you can open up that next realm. But if you don't have a goal that's 10 times bigger than what you want right now, you're never going to have the motivation to actually look at your schedule like that. Because if you're just trying to do a little bit better, well, you can probably just do what you're doing now a little bit harder. But the unfortunate thing about that is then it bleeds into your evenings, that now you're not spending those with your kids, you're still working.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to do 10% more. Well, yeah, you can do that by working half hour, 45 minutes, 2 hours into the night. So you have to have a goal that's big enough for you to think differently.
100%. What are those things, taking it back to the things that have set you up for success? What habits, what things in your life have been the biggest things that you think that, beyond just being motivated and having a goal and a vision as an entrepreneur, like, do you feel like there's certain things that set you up for success in all areas, whether that was your fitness, whether that was focusing on your growth or reading or listening to podcasts? Like, if there's certain things that have set you up for success kind of in all realms of life?
I think it's a belief and faith that you can change and have authority over your life.
Yeah.
Whether it's fitness or business, the actions that you take are what change your reality. And that starts with the thoughts that you have. And if you have to believe that you can change. Otherwise, you're never going to take the action in the first place. I think that's the biggest thing for me.
Yeah.
What would you say?
For me, I feel like somewhat of the physical comes first, I guess. I think they kind of coincide. That mental, like you have to have the attitude portion of it. But for me, and the best example I can talk about right now, I mean, just small things. But like, for example, like I just got like a sauna that we put in the house. And just doing that, it's just like that one little notch in the belt of something that I'm noticing has a carryover effect into multiple areas. Like I'm sleeping significantly better. Like I've cut out my melatonin use like in half just by doing that. I feel way better. Joints are feeling better. And I feel like because of that, because the whole trickle down effect of better sleep, my joints are feeling better. My body's feeling better. Now, like mentally, I'm in a better spot. And there's obviously some other things going on that I'm doing, but doing those things now allows me to be like in a headspace where I am okay with not just feeling the need to be busy, and I'm not as stressed out. And so I feel like going back to that, the original topic, like the things that I overcame for myself that set me up for success in my business, that's also the same things that set me up for what I'm doing now. Like had I never overcame those things physically, I don't feel like I would have the capacity to mentally be where I'm at, to think the way that I do, because I'd be so in the weeds of being sick and feeling like crap. And I think that that's been a big thing, like setting myself, and that's why I'm so passionate about it, like setting myself up for success with fitness and movement and sleep and nutrition. It just gives me like the bandwidth to then be able to think better and to like have those mental thoughts that are abundance, that I'm not just in that scarcity mindset. I'm not, and there's been nights these past weeks with the baby, like being awake all night, where I was up every single hour of the night, and like my thought process the next day and the things that I was thinking about and angry about, like were just stupid. And then I get a good night of sleep and I'm like, the perspective now is completely different.
It
Like,
is.
holy smokes. Like the thing, like, and it had like nightly, there are some thoughts, whether it's like disagreements with the wife and stuff, that I'm like, dude, just go to bed. And like, if it's that important, like pick it back up in the morning, but like go to sleep and then see how it sits in the morning. And just getting a good night of sleep is like, there's much bigger shit to think about here. So
There
for
absolutely
me,
is.
I feel like having leaned into that and continually leaning into that for me, it just gives me the space to then take care of the shit that I need to more efficiently, and then be able to step aside and be like, all right, 30,000 foot view. How do I think differently about these problems? What would I need to do to 10x that? But if I was not in a good physical, mental space or health wise, that would be a lot harder to do.
I think fitness, one of the most important parts, now that I'm looking at it, is that it teaches you through the daily actions and habits and choices it takes to get into good shape.
Yeah.
It teaches you the lesson that you have. That's the same thing that controls the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So if you can get in shape and you can wrap your head around, oh, it's because, hey, remember that one day when I ate my meal prep instead of going out to eat the whatever cheeseburger and fries?
Yeah.
You start to realize that your choices each day are what shape your life. And it's not as simple as having one hard workout and then you're in shape the next day.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where that original belief that I have came from, was just seeing the results in the gym.
Yeah.
And seeing that the harder you work, the better results you get.
And I think too, the stories that I tell myself, like for example, tracking food will do that too. Like it'll open your eyes about, we tell ourselves certain stories about why we are where we're at, how we are, or why we are who we are, and the ceilings that we put on ourselves because of those things. And doing things like tracking your food and doing the fitness stuff like opens your eyes up to that, because we all under or overestimate things drastically. And so like when you pick back up on like tracking every single thing that goes into your mouth, you realize, oh, I wasn't thinking about that bite here, or this cooking oil that I was using. That's, like you think you're in a calorie deficit. Like I'm going to this phase of doing a cut right now. I've been off tracking for about the last month. And those things like I'm pretty good about estimating my protein and getting that in. I'm pretty good about estimating like fiber and things. But then like there's all those little things during a busy day that start slipping that add in 500 calories by the end of the day. And then it starts opening your eyes up to, you know, other aspects of life of maybe you're not doing as much as you thought you were because you're getting distracted. Like your output when you look at the results are not there, or you're underestimating things especially. So I feel like it just opens up your eyes and it challenges those stories that you tell yourselves in other aspects of life.
I totally agree.
Yeah. I think it's a wrap.
I think it probably is. I was trying to feel like I was trying to think of where to go next because I could talk about this for the rest of the day probably.
Give us some closing thoughts then. Go on a closing tangent.
Closing tangent. Yeah, I think the emotion that one of the things that I've been trying to focus on in the mornings when I visualize things is people talk a lot about gratitude.
Okay.
But when I'm visualizing things, it's a combination of looking at the past and how it's framed the future, and the future that I see, getting really clear and being in the moment, feeling like it's the present. Like probably 2 to 3 times a week, I'm in tears of gratitude in the morning on my way in.
Really?
Like it's intense.
Wow, dude.
Yep. And I feel like because of that, you start to radiate it at a different level, and you have the opportunity to gain so much more clarity. And I think the reason that I feel like I'm able to think so much more clear and have a bigger impact right now and have a more of an inkling to follow that voice of, hey, let's do this, is because I'm not stuck in the like shitty negative mindset that I was for a while. But the biggest change, I feel like if you're stuck in that mindset, you're not going to hear the information. You're not going to make the decision to make a change. You're not going to take the hard steps if you're in that negative mindset or that anxiety driven, the negative circles.
And why is that?
Your body's just not even open to the information. Like I'm reading a book right now about he's a brain surgeon who talks about the way that your brain operates with manifestation and the different systems of your brain. And your brain can only take in so much information. He considers it like 50 bits, but then you're exposed to like 10 million throughout the...
Which there's actually like a mathematical equation
like, you can put a number on it.
How much you can handle in a given day or a given week.
And there's so much information in the world that you're exposed to.
Yeah.
Your brain can only take in so much of it. So it's going to look for what frequency it's already on. And that's the information you're taking in. And you're never going to take in the information until you change that frequency that you're operating at, because it's just not even going to resonate and you're not going to find it. And it sounds kind of woo-woo, foo-foo-y, but the progress that I've made in my life the last 6 to 9 months has correlated exactly with the switch that I've had to leaning into gratitude. And it's not because of, hey, if you're thankful for stuff, it's just a magic thing, but it changes how you're looking at everything.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really good place that people can start with. They give something, if you're wondering, I have no idea where to start, like I'm out of shape, my business isn't where I want it to be, like, where do I even begin? And just like you're starting on a really big project, like you have to have one thing that you can start today to build that momentum. I think that's just starting the day and ending the day with what you're grateful for.
Yeah.
And it's going to start to change the lens that you're looking at the world through.
I agree, dude. Your brain is literally a battery. That's a great conversation to have too, because I get people that ask me like, do you see X, Y, and Z on the news, or that this is happening with them? And I'm like, I haven't watched the news in 15 years.
I'm the same way, man.
It's funny, over this past weekend, I was at dinner with Rudy Reyes, who, you know, He's the main trainer on #1 Fox show and former Special Forces guy, and played himself in the HBO series Generation Kill. And we were talking about politics and administrations and stuff. And, there's a lot of turmoil in the world. We started talking about what we think and how we think people are doing. And I'm like, gave my opinions, but I'm like, at the end of the day, 99% of my focus goes into setting up my family, my fitness, my health, my faith, making sure that I'm somewhat prepared. Like, if shit, quote unquote, hits the fan, like, I've got things in place that will be okay for a while. And then, for me, it's like, I feel like I'm probably ahead of most people in terms of like preparedness and the things I go about in my life, but I still don't feel like I'm there. And like, I don't feel like I can focus on those things. I don't have the luxury of watching the news until my house, metaphorically, is in order in all aspects. My family's taken care of, faith, family, finance, fitness. And so in the meantime, all of my bandwidth and my battery goes into those things because I just do not have. I think that's something that set me up for success, is not focusing on those things allows me to focus on the things that are actually moving the needle in my life, in my career, and my fitness. Because, dude, if you're focusing on those things, something is going to be sacrificed. And at the end of the day, those are the big needle movers. And if you're not focusing on your mentality, your faith, your career, your fitness, like, why the hell are you focusing on the news that's making outside problems that you can't control, and they're trying to make it seem like it's your problem? And that's what takes up your mental bandwidth. You're worried about what your neighbors are doing or these celebrities are doing. And then you wonder why you have the results that you do. And it becomes more apparent to me as I go throughout the world and interact with more people, is there's like a hard line between how successful people operate, success being a loose term in any capacity, versus 90% of the population. Like, it's just because there's so much distraction, there's so much energy, there's so much anger that's geared towards things that don't matter, things you can't control. And like, that's what you're setting yourself up, one, to look for, and you're setting yourself up to focus on for the near future. And I'm like, I'm pretty confident that I'm going to continue winning. You're going to continue winning just because of that mentality of like, I'm not perfect about it, but like, I'm pretty guarded with where my time and my attention and my bandwidth goes to. And I'm trying to get better about it. Like, even down to like the music that I listen to now. I love rap music, but like, I noticed that it puts me in a phase or like a state of mind that's not always great. It's great for like getting hyped up, and I think certain musicians, like this past month, I've been trying to like also maybe condense down what I'm putting in my brain and what I'm listening to. But like, I've listened to Nipsey Hussle's Victory Lap every single day for at least the past 30 days.
Okay.
Just putting on that side. I feel like Nipsey, like, his lyrics are a lot better than most of today's rap. But then even like going a step further, like the state of mind that puts me into like listening to more classical music, like putting myself in a state of mind that's more conducive to being focused, calm, relaxed, and focusing on my workday. So even down to like micro things like that, like everything that you're exposing yourself to, that you're being input, and we're just bombarded by things. It's either adding or taking away from your goals and your focus. And there's really no gray area with it.
There's not. That's part of that like year and a half stretch where I wasn't working out and was down in the dumps motivation wise and everything. Also completely distracted. I felt like I wasn't getting anything done because I felt like I was just overloaded, have so much stuff on my plate. It's because I just wasn't doing one thing at a time.
Yeah.
Like, if I would just sit down, block off my schedule, it sounds so simple, and then just guard my attention, I'd get stuff done a lot faster at a lot higher level.
Yep.
That's really important. Everybody's get distracted on their notifications, and just pay attention to your awareness throughout the day.
We live in a fascinating time.
It is.
Good and bad. I'm curious to see where the technology stuff takes us. It's going to sound bad, but it's interesting to me watching low IQ people you know, like all things considered, but seeing the way that like technology enthralls people. And I feel like those people that maybe, you know, and I say low IQ because there's no intentionality with their life. They don't guard their time. They're not, you know, like they focus on dumb shit. How much like that takes up their time. Like they're just on their phones all the time doing dumb shit that's not even productive, but like
Yeah.
they're on their screens. Their kids are just on a laptop. Like they're distracting them while they're on their phones. There's no interaction going on between them. And it's just like, it's kind of like watching a monkey experiment.
It's going to be interesting, man.
It's going to be interesting. And it's too like anything else. It's a scalpel. It can be used for doing surgery. It can also kill somebody. It's kind of the way technology is. You know, are you a consumer of it or do you use it for the greater good? And it's still like it's easy for it to creep in and be a distraction at the end of the day. Like it happens for me, even though I do utilize it for a lot of good. But it'll be interesting seeing where we go with things, because it definitely doesn't help for a lot of the mental health issues we're dealing with. Yeah, we'll see. Any closing thoughts?
I had a random tidbit that jumped in there, which is something I probably need to add to my story. Did you know the original reason why the gyms that we worked at were able to gain such a quick foothold in the KC metro market?
No.
Even though the closest gym was a few hours away. So for about a year and a half before we even moved to Kansas City, I was building the social media page for Iron Park, which was going to be the gym that I was trying to get funded to open when we moved out here to Kansas City. So then when I started at the foundation or in the gym, there was already like a 2,500 person audience that we had built, or I had built in Kansas City, that was ready for a gym. And then we just copy and paste, switch everything over to hit the ground running. But that was another example of the work that I had done that I thought was a waste at that point turned out to be really important.
Wow.
So don't quit and keep it on.
You never know where it's going to go.
You don't.
Honestly. And I'm in a phase of that right now with kind of like what I consider like phase 2 going into phase 3. Like I'm connecting a lot of dots for successful people in a lot of ways without expecting things in return. And it's already kind of starting to come to fruition. So there's going to be some cool things coming in my life. And it's literally just me having that outlook of how do I connect the dots for people in a big vision, in a big way that brings a lot of value and everybody wins. And don't know where it's going to go, but it's going to be hard not to win by doing that and doing it enough times.
You got to have a big vision and play the long game, and it's going to work out in a really big way.
Yeah. This is a good episode.
It was. We'll do more stuff like this, but in the meantime, I guess check out the other episodes if you haven't already.
Yeah, go listen to them. Give us a follow.
Follow us on Instagram as well, Forging Alpha. We don't do much on Facebook yet, do we?
I don't think so.
Okay.
It might get shared. Follow us on Instagram. Go subscribe on YouTube. And if this was helpful, send it to a friend.
Perfect. Have a great day.
We'll catch you guys later.